I thought love would be a relatively easy topic to talk about. And I found it to be quite difficult, actually. And the reason is, it's so vast. There's so much to talk about. I'll do my best to convey some thoughts I have about love, both universal love and relationship love. And I hope it makes some sense to you. If it doesn't, I always invite you with that buffet. If it doesn't appeal to you, don't eat it. Okay. If you were an alien coming to planet Earth for the first time and accessed the internet and Googled love, what would you get? According to wikihow.com, love is, and I quote, expressed as an action and experienced as a feeling, yet love has an essence that resists defining in any single way. It encompasses compassion, determination, tolerance, endurance, support, faith, and much more. End quote. What the hell does that mean? Huh? Wow. If the alien continued to look for definitions in our books or in our written word, he continues to discover this confusing mishmash. Love is a many-splendored thing. Love hurts. Love is divine. Love bites. Love is a losing game. Love makes the world go round. Love is blind. The look of love. If the alien were to consider listening to us speak, it probably wouldn't shed any more light on the subject of love. In common discussion, we talk about loving our job, loving chocolate, loving our house, loving the Olympics, loving our car, loving the weather, loving our husband, loving a TV show, all with the same intonation. There's even love 15 in tennis. What? Love can be a nickname, or it can be a noun just by where you place the comma. Thanks to Benny Hill, what is this thing called? Love? Or what is this thing called love? So what is it really? We know that love is an attractive, connecting, and magnetic energy. We know that love can transform and heal and create. And we know it is a powerful force for good. In John, we are told that love is God. God is love. If love is energy, then God also is energy. And love then might be written as God energy in action. At its base, though, love is all about relationship. And really there is no category that differentiates between romantic love, familial love, brotherly love. It all comes from the same source, which is that feeling that we get inside when we are in divine relationship with something or someone else. Of course, as humans, we tend to experience love mostly in our human relationships. And so I think it's probably worth some attention to human relationships, to understand a little bit about what makes them tick and what doesn't work in them. So let's look at some things that make relationships more loving today. I want to share some research findings that were made by Dr. John Gottman, who is a psychologist who lives in Seattle and has become world famous as the person who is the leading researcher in human relationships, specifically marital relationships. Recognize, though, that although what I'm about to tell you was based on his discoveries of marriage relationships, these things apply to every relationship. For over 20 years, he studied married couples and how they interact with each other, and he has discovered some fascinating stuff, which he talks about in his book, which is the 7 principles for making marriage work. In his research, married couples were invited to spend a weekend at an apartment in Seattle that they lovingly nicknamed the Love Lab. They had heart rate monitors put on them. They had sweat monitors put on them. They had cameras all around them between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And the only place the cameras were not were in the bathroom. And so these couples subjected themselves to a weekend of basically being exposed in all their finery, in all this recorded way. And then they were asked to behave naturally. Sounds a little creepy, actually. What's really interesting is the couples who actually continued to stay together periodically came back after times. So he actually has some ongoing research on the same couples. So it really does become quite an interesting study. And you think that knowing that all this stuff was being recorded all the time, that people would be on their best behavior. Not so much. It didn't take them very long at all to forget all about the cameras and revert to their normal behaviors. And that's where the stuff got really good. It was a reality show. And from his observations of the words that they spoke, of their body language between each other, as well as their heart rates and their perspiration, Gottman found that he could predict with 91% accuracy if a marriage was going to end in divorce. Wow. And with about 70% accuracy, he predicted it within 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Here's what he found. First, and this is probably the saddest thing of all, but not surprising, 70% of all the relationship conflicts that you have will never be resolved. So what he found with those couples who kept coming back is their hair got grayer, their faces got more wrinkles, and their songs remained the same. Whatever they complained to each other about 5 years before was the same argument they had, and the same argument they had 5 years ago. Does anyone relate to that?
I'm divorced.
Right. It was really very interesting. So then, he basically, the people who managed to stick together through that, he called marriage masters. The people who divorced, split up, he called masters, disasters, marriage disasters. Not to say that there's any judgment in there, but that's just how he termed them. So what did he look for when predicting what was a successful relationship? The major indicator is how well the participants show respect and honor for each other. He watched how they speak and don't speak to each other. And that was the #1 key. When we were kids, we sang, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Did anybody sing that?
Yeah. Names.
Oh, names. Now it's changed to names. We know that to be false. Bones can heal. Words, once they're spoken, cannot be unspoken. And names and labels that get applied and get heard can never be unheard. Anybody here heard of the four horsemen of the apocalypse? They're the harbingers of death. Death. They're referred to in Revelation as the end of the world, basically. These four horsemen of the apocalypse. And Gottman identified in his research 4 traits that he considered to be so damaging to a relationship that he calls them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And I don't really want to belabor, because this is unity and we don't focus on the negative, but I do think it's important that we recognize what doesn't work, because then we can deny that power and move to something that does. So if it feels a little uncomfortable because I'm talking about negative, bear with me, we will get into stuff that's positive in a moment. 4 horsemen are criticism, followed by contempt, followed by defensiveness, followed by stonewalling.
Can you say that again?
Sure. Criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So if he observed relationships in which people were critical or contemptuous, if people became defensive and started the yeah, but, or if they clammed up, they were signs for him that the marriage was in trouble. And further than that, when initiating an argument or I didn't like this, if that was done in contempt or criticism, he called that harsh startup. And that also added to the likelihood that the marriage would end. It's kind of uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to hear this because we all at times criticize. We all at times, I know for me, become defensive. If more than half of the issues that we have in our relationships aren't going to be resolved, then how do the masters do it? They do it by honoring and respecting each other, by enjoying each other's company, and by treating each other as they would treat their best friend. You know that sometimes we treat strangers better than we treat the people we care about. These guys know that despite their differences, they are free to love and to be loved as they are. And we all need and want that feeling of connection, of belonging that we call love. Whether we're in a love romantic relationship or not, it is a human need to belong. Gary Chapman, in his lovely book, The 5 Love Languages, it's back on the bestseller list, I think. It's well worth a read. It's short, but it's concise and it's brilliant. He suggests that we each have different needs that we must have met in order to feel love. And the need for you and for me and for you and for you are going to be different. But in general, they fall into 5 major categories that he calls languages. And they are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. So we'll go briefly into each one of those. Words of affirmation. These are verbal compliments. These are words of encouragement, and there are powerful ways to say, I love you. Mark Twain said, I can live for 2 months on a good compliment. I want more. Walt.
I don't even know him.
Just paying attention. Just checking to see if you're paying attention. For those of us whose love language is words of affirmation, it is more important to hear something nice than to get something nice. Words matter more than gifts, more than time, more than touch, more than whether you make supper for me or mow the lawn. Words of affirmation. For some of us, quality time might be our love language. So for these people, those people, us people, we all to some extent have all of them, but most of us have a predominant one. For people whose love language is quality time, a weekly date, going out for lunch periodically, checking in during the day with a phone call, making a point to schedule some time every day to just touch base and see how your day was. Those are important. They're more important than getting a compliment. They're more important than getting a gift. They're more important than whether or not you did the laundry today. Our need for connection, if that is your love language, is the other person's time. The third love language, receiving gifts. We know gift giving has been around for centuries, and being in an attitude of love is always accompanied by the concept of giving. That's why Valentine's Day becomes such a big commercial operation. For the person whose love language is receiving gifts, gifts are a symbol that I was thought of. The gift is not as important as the message that the person interprets from the receiving of the gift, which is, I mattered enough that they thought of me. A card, a chocolate bar, a car, a flower. In the end, actually, and I kid you not, apparently, it's actually all the same. It's all the same. Apparently, I read this somewhere and I don't remember where and I couldn't find it again, but they all have the same number of points, you know. Take me on a trip to Hawaii or buy me a chocolate bar, it's all the same. So, yeah, it's more to do with I was thought of. The fourth love language, a gift of service. This is the way many people, especially our parents and those of an older generation, demonstrated their love. They worked long hours to provide for the family, to cook the supper, to do the gardening, to do the running around, to do the laundry, to fix the car. A person whose love language is gifts of service may never, ever, ever say the words, I love you. What they do is their expression of, I love you. Those of us who value gifts of service will feel loved then when someone lightens a load for them. For them, actions speak louder than words. For them, just like I think it's in the movie, the show Oklahoma, don't say the words, show me. That's their life. And finally, something we don't do very well at Unity, physical touch. The last love language. What's the first thing that we do in the time of a crisis? We hug each other. What's the first thing we do when we're absolutely elated at something? We hug each other. If you've watched the Olympics at all, you'll notice that it doesn't matter if it's because they've won or because they've completely wiped out. The athletes will go to the person they care about the most, and the first thing they do is touch. They will connect with hugs. It's a powerful communicator of love. And for those of us for whom touch is important, a hand on the shoulder in passing, a peck on the cheek when you leave at the beginning of the day, a hug when you reunite. These are all messages that are powerful ways to say, I love you. It's really an interesting concept, this love language concept. It may help to shed some insight as to why some people might be doing things for you that you don't really care. Or you do something with great love for someone and it just doesn't seem to matter to them with the impact that you gave it. Chances are you're speaking different languages. Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What would I have my neighbor or my partner do unto me? I would want them to honor me in the love language that matters to me. It is incumbent on me then to honor the people I care about by speaking their language, the language that matters most to them. My love languages are not always the same. If your love language is time, and your father's love language was going out to provide for the family, he may have thought he was showing his love for you with a different love language than you valued. So you might say, Dad's always at work, he doesn't care about us. The reason Dad's at work is because he cares about you. It just changes how you might look at it. I can tell you for certain that my love language and his is not the same. Just saying. Consider giving your gift of love in the language that the other person values, or it may not really be seen as love at all. Okay. Romantic love. I love romantic love. Who doesn't love romantic love? That feeling of being in love, you know, the stars twinkle, the sun seems to shine brighter, everybody seems happier, the birds sing, all is well with the world. We even forgive the guy who cuts us off on the highway, that jerk. You know, we want to share this expansive feeling then with everybody we meet, and we write poetry and we write songs, and they're beautiful songs like To Know Him is to Love Him, Annie's Song, The Power of Love, Roses Are Red, My Love, hundreds of other songs that all pay testament to the power of this emotion that we call love. And let's not forget poetry and prose. Listen to this one. Alfred Lord Tennyson, beautiful author. If I had a flower for every time I thought of you, I could walk in my garden forever. Oh, so sweet. Christopher Marlowe, thou art fairer than the evening air, clad in the beauty of 1,000 stars. Our world, when we're in love, is transformed into a place of hope, of optimism, of goodness, because we're living from a place of bliss. Until sometimes romantic love just doesn't stand the test of time. When we're in love, we pin our hopes and our dreams on this other person. Every waking thought is about them. They're the first thing we think about when we wake up in the morning. They're the last thing we think about when we fall asleep. And all the day long, they're the person who fills our thoughts. They are then also the person that we turn to for reassurance. They're the person we give all our loving energy to. And they're the person to whom we look to receive loving energy. What a lot of responsibility. How much power do we give away? That person is just as unique as we are. They have just as many idiosyncrasies and goofy, outdated beliefs and stupid habits as we do. And at some point, that humanity is bound to surface. And then we're forced to recognize that although they may be lovely, they don't hold the answer to our happiness. Too often, though, by then, we've invested so much hope and faith in that person, and the relationship that it hurts when it's not able to sustain anymore. Then we go into animosity, into anger, into protecting ourselves from the hurt so that we don't go through that again. And entire music careers, particularly country, have been built on songs about the pain of lost loves. If Ron was here, I'd say nothing against that. In fact, there's a song, Won't You Play Another Somebody Done Somebody Wrong song, Glenn Campbell, I think it was. How about some other songs? I said I loved you, but I lied. You've lost that loving feeling. Where did our love go? And my favorite, kiss this. All people need love. Chapman puts it this way: we needed love before we fell in love, and we will need it as long as we live. End quote. Why are the feelings that we experience when we're in love so powerful? Why are they so real? In Les Mis, Jean Valjean, the character, says, to love another person is to see the face of God. And I think this is the key to understanding what happens to us when we connect with someone else, romantically or otherwise. We see God reflected in the love they give us. And when we give love to them, we experience that sense of oneness that makes us feel whole. They become the face of God for us. They see the face of God in us. And in that oneness, we feel wonderful. It's as if they help us to remember that we're divine, that we matter. And here's the good news. Regardless of whether someone else loves us or not, love is ours to have anyway. By recognizing we've been investing all our hopes and our dreams for happiness on something out there, we've been putting the wrong love on a pedestal. In the words of a song, we've been looking for love in all the wrong places. We've already said that God is love. At Unity, we teach that God is in all, that God is through all, and that there is no place that God is not. And each one of us carries within us that spark of divinity that we call God. Now, the G word may be intimidating for some people. Call it spirit, call it love, call it universal energy. My brother Ron, my son David, our Star Wars fans, they call it the Force. By whatever name you choose for your expression of God, know that you are part of that creative energy. And you, me, and every other person on this planet are expressions of God. We're already love. It's already in us. Our work is simply to get out of the way, fall in love with what's already in us, and let it out by showing up in the world as love. We simply need to reconnect with that loving presence. In Luke, we're told to seek first the kingdom of God. Then all these things will be added to you. I think this is what they were talking about. Seek first the kingdom of heaven that is already yours inside you. Take all that energy and make the object of your devotion love. Remember the movie Sister Act with Whoopi Goldberg? In that movie, they take the song My Guy Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? They take that and they change it into my God. They change the words. So then the words sound like nothing you can do because I'm stuck like glue to my God. Nothing you can say can tear me away to my God. That was an aha moment for me. And then I started thinking, what would some of those love songs look like if you sang them and replaced the dude or the gal with the one that is unchanging, whatever your definition is, with love, with God, with Spirit. If when we sing the song, we're singing it to God, or when we hear the words, we hear them as if they come from God. We don't need to look for love out there. We don't need assurance that we're good enough. We already have access to all the love we need because at our essence, that is who we are. And the most fun part is this. The more you get that, the more love you give. The more love there is to give because it is absolutely infinite. The love of God is eternal, unchanging, unconditional, and perfect. And as Whitney Houston said, you can tell I love music, huh? I found the greatest love of all inside of me. And finally, another concept to consider. You know, if you go to a wedding, more often than not, they do 1 Corinthians 13. That's the most popular Bible verse about love that they talk about at weddings. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not boast. Love is not arrogant or rude, does not insist on its own way, is not easily angered, keeps no record of wrongs, does not delight in injustice, but rejoices with the truth. Love never gives up, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Cool. Now, replace that with the word God. And say that sentence to yourself again. Changes it a little. And once you've done that, remember that you're an expression of God. Now put your name in there. What great affirmations. I am patient. I am kind. I do not envy. I do not boast. I am not arrogant or rude. I do not insist on my own way. I am not easily angered. I keep no record of wrongs. I do not delight in justice. I rejoice in truth. I never give up. I always trust. I always hope. I am love and love never fails. Interesting way to define yourself, huh? This Valentine's weekend and every day, I invite you to explore your role as an ambassador of love. Love God. Love yourself. Love your neighbor. Knowing we are all energy, we're all connected, and we're all one. God bless you.